Time for our weekly visit with Wayne Larrivee, longtime play-by-play man for the Green Bay Packers. You know, there's a huge, massive IT disruption that has grounded three major airlines, Wayne, American, United, and Delta. It's crazy right now. You're not traveling today, I hope.
No, thank goodness.
Oh, my God. And thank God, if, God forbid, this happened leading up to a Packer game, your precious prep boards are also immune to hackers because I believe you'll still do them the old-fashioned way with multicolored pen, cardboard, and paper. Yeah?
Yeah, the old vanilla envelope paper. Yeah. Exactly.
Yes.
Let's go back in time.
Butchie, when you prep for games, how do you prepare your boards as an analyst?
A little bit of a mixture. I like having mine printed out, but then I'll also write a lot of stuff on it. So
okay, well, very good. Well, maybe more
hackers could take mine away.
Oh man, this world's getting crazy.
Butchie, with us, it's all right up here, right? It's
right up here.
It is. Well, you know that you prep it, you write it down, and then you don't even you barely look at your board because the game goes so quick. You got to have it, right around. So,
all right. Good morning, Wayne. How are you today, my friend? We are right on the cusp of training camp beginning officially on Monday.
Yeah, looking forward to it. It should be a lot of fun. It's a big opening day when you consider they're having the stockholders meeting there that day as well, following practice in the afternoon. So going to be a lot of traffic in Green Bay on Monday.
Well, and it's the final one presided over by Mark Murphy, correct?
Yeah, I believe so. Obviously, he retires as of, I believe, next July, if I'm not mistaken. And then Ed Policy takes over. So if I'm not, I would think Ed Policy.
So next July prior to the shareholder meeting.
That's what I understand, but I could be wrong.
Okay, I have not been. I do own a share of Packer stock. And I was proud to send that $317 down the river to wherever it went, and it's framed and it's up in the house. But have you ever been to the shareholder meeting and what goes on?
Oh, yeah. There's a presentation made by the board, primarily Mark Murphy, the CEO, introduces Brian Gutekunst. He usually talks a little bit, Ted Thompson before him. They give people an update on what they expect coming up at camp and the season and that type of thing. There's some financial information that is highlighted, and it's a good show.
Yeah. The Packers being publicly owned that they're the little window into the league's finances. And so it's always fascinating to see, financial outlets report on, okay, here's what we can glean about the league based on the Packers' mandatory reporting of their financials. And it looks like, Wayne, that the league distributed to teams an additional $1 billion last year, up from $12 billion scattered to 32 teams to $13 billion. So it's an extremely healthy league right now.
Yeah, the TV contracts basically cover all costs and then some. And, local revenues come into play for these teams in many respects, some of which are not under the NFL umbrella. And that's where, the real health of the team is. And what's always amazing to me, and again, we don't see everybody's books, but we have a pretty good idea. The Packers are among the leaders in local revenue generation. So they generate a lot of revenue from Packers Pro Shop, apparently is number one in terms of revenue across the league from what I read. And local revenues, television rights for preseason games, radio rights, that kind of thing. They all come into play on the local level. And the Packers do very well there in the smallest market of the league.
When with training camp coming up, who's the most important guy that you'll watch and say, hey, he needs to be great for the Packers to win a Super Bowl?
One guy, obviously the quarterback, you would figure needs to be great. There's no doubt, but everybody, you could say that about everybody.
Yeah.
Going beyond that, I would say on the offense, Christian Watson can make the biggest difference. If he plays every week, if he's healthy and becomes the number one receiver, the big playability that he has. On the defensive side of things, I really think, when you look at their defense in total, I'm accepting that Xavier McKinney is going to be great. All right. But I think Rashawn Gary has to bring it in terms of not just pressures, but sacks and tackles for loss. I think he's a big key on that defense. I really do. And I understand you're going to have new inside linebacker type situation with Edgerrin Cooper and that type of thing. And that's important. But I really think getting pressure on the quarterback, that's going to be big for the Packers defense.
I'm a sucker for workout videos, Butchie. I know that
I know
every
I hate
athlete. I know you hate them. Wayne, how do you feel about workout videos? I saw a workout video of Rashawn Gary, and it made my knees buckle. He looked so savage. Just shorts and a T-shirt, doing all these explosive blocking this and bap, 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 bap. And I'm thinking, this guy is such a freak. How can he be blocked?
Yeah, well, that's
the answer is when healthy, it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah, if he could stay healthy, I mean, that's a big key, pressuring the quarterback. And again, I go back to it and say, I understand these coaches talk about, well, pressure is important, all this other stuff. Yeah. But, when you're going against Patrick Mahomes and you pressure him and he gets away and he flings it to Travis Kelce for a 15-yard gain, sure, you got a pressure on your belt there, but the play was a success for Kansas City. So I need sacks. I need tackles behind the line of scrimmage. That's what I need from the defense, and I think we're going to get that this year. I really do, because I think they're pretty well-balanced defense. Aside from Rashawn Gary, you asked me one player. I think the big key on that defense will be how quickly they adapt to the new base defense, but also how well the inside linebackers and safeties control the middle of the field. And that's both against the run and the pass. That'll be huge, because where can the Packers get markedly better than they were a year ago? I think on the defensive side of the football and or special teams.
Where do you stand on playing in the preseason? Because the trend is now going further and further away from your best players, key guys playing at all.
I'd like to get them a few series, maybe two in the first two games of the preseason, get them a couple of series each game, and, get them out there and hopefully, depending on, a couple of series. Well, if the series goes 12 plays, I think that's probably enough on opening week of the preseason. But I like to see the guys get out there and play a little bit. I really do.
You say a couple series. Are you talking about two series early in weeks 1 and 2, and then no playing in week 3 of the preseason?
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I could see going that way. But, there's also the other factor is, in some coaches like it this way, they'll play their veterans in that last preseason game a little more extensively because they've got 2 weeks off between then and the opener. So, so you play them in the first 2 preseason games, then you don't play them in week 3. Now you have 3 weeks before they play again in a game situation. So there are a couple of different ways of going about it. I'm really curious to see what Matt LaFleur does. I thought he handled it great last year. He got them a good amount of time on the field, and they were ready to go opening day.
Do you think we'll see the majority of your starters with 2 joint practices? Because that's going to change obviously this year as well. The joint practices, the value that Matt puts on those, we know him and Aaron, differed on that a little bit with the young guys last year. They benefited from it. I mean, they're going to have the joint practices with Denver and then the joint practices with Baltimore.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Butchie. And I think it depends on what they get out of those practices. Okay. Now, all practice sessions are not equal. So we know that. It depends. I mean, they have a good week of practice in Denver that day. They're only practicing 1 day. So if it was a 2-day thing like it's been in the past, then I'd say, well, maybe you don't play your veterans in the next the preseason game following that stretch. But with 1 practice, a couple of sessions in that practice against the opponents, I think you still might want to see a little bit more in the game that follows.
All right, Packers Prime is this weekend, and it is Super Bowl 45, our replay of great games in Packer history. Your call of that game. What is, aside from what an incredible game and Rodgers doing what he did and the Jennings catch and blah, 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 what stands out to you most about that magical night down in Dallas?
It's one of those things where that whole week's experience in Dallas was kind of like this. My oldest son mentioned this. He said, it really was kind of a hell week because you had the flight delays, you had the ice, you had all kinds of weather-related issues all week. And then, you play the game. And if the Packers lost the game, that would be seen as one of the worst weeks we've ever spent. But they won the game, and it's become a legendary, oh, do you remember all the ice and this and that and the other thing? And it was great. Wow, it was wonderful to be there. So, I think that's really the thing I take away from it. It was the complete week down there. And the game itself, just magical in the end, the way it ended up. The Packers got on top early. They were playing comfortably. You knew the Steelers, who had a lot of Super Bowl metal in them, came back and gave that a heck of a run. The fumble that was recovered by the Packers, that forced by Clay Matthews in the fourth quarter, that stunted the Steelers' drive to take the lead or tie the game. Those are all magical moments on that evening. But the one play that sticks out to me more than any other was the Roethlisberger interception to Nick Collins, who returned it to the house. And it was a ball that was tipped by the defensive lineman, Green. And Collins that week had been kind of sullen because, they have tables during the week, these press sessions, and guys gather around a table again with a player. And more often than not, Nick Collins' table was empty. And I went over and talked to him. He was really kind of down about it. And I said, Nick, I think you're going to make one of the biggest plays in the game this week. So keep your head up and don't worry about it. And sure enough, he did.
Was your call of what I thought was the back-breaking play, the throw to Greg Jennings on 3rd and 10, was it a good call by your standards as a play-by-play man?
Yeah, I thought so because, they just couldn't buy a third down. They couldn't convert a third down to the second half of that game. They were without Driver. Defensively, they were without Charles Woodson. They were wobbling at that point. And as good as Rodgers was that day, he just couldn't make it happen on third down, it seemed like. And the receivers. Jordy Nelson would have set the all-time Super Bowl record for reception yards and receptions had he not dropped about 3 or 4 balls in that game. And I remember at one point I exclaimed on the air, I said, you got to catch the football in the Super Bowl, but it just, for a while there, they were really struggling. And that play to Jennings, like, boom, unlocked the Packers offense. And they went on to win there. And Jennings caught a great pass over the middle. He got plastered by Troy Polamalu and hung on. It was a heck of a ball game. It really was.
Very good. All right. This Sunday at noon, it is Packers Rewind. You'll hear Super Bowl 45, as it was called by Wayne and the crew. And we look forward to that. Wayne, I hope your back is continuing on the mend. We look forward to seeing you up there in Green Bay in about a week and a day or two. We'll be up there a week from Monday. Camp begins. Have a great weekend, my friend, and we'll talk to you soon.
We'll talk to you soon, guys. Take care. Looking forward to it.
All right. Very good.